Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hello, Merry Christmas, Internet, or Happy Holidays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you celebrate. Happy whatever. Now, I don't know about you, but Christmas for me has always really meant one thing and one thing only. It always brings it to mind. Every time Christmas comes around, every year, I always think of the same thing, and that thing is zombies. It stems from a childhood that was rather strange, perhaps a little bit interesting. Yeah. So, anyways, here it comes. Are you ready? So, hello and welcome to chapter 11 of book 1 of You Should Be Reading. And today we're going to be talking about World War Z by Max Brooks, Mel Brooks' son. And if any of you have not seen any Mel Brooks movies, please remedy that. It is classic comedy, and it should not be missed. Now, putting that aside, World War Z by Max Brooks, an oral history of the zombie war. It is written in a very interesting style. I know it's a movie now, out last year, possibly year before. Can't quite remember. But it was out with basically Brad Pitt saving the world, which is, great. I saw the movie. I liked the movie. It was really good. I enjoyed it for what it was, a zombie movie. Um, the particular method that they have the zombies, the fast spawning and very fast moving zombies in the movie was very interesting, very scary. So I liked that part of it. But, and we run into this again back from the Born Identity video I did, that the movie really does not have a lot to do with the book. It's an adaptation, and they took quite a few liberties with it in the movie. The book is a much better story, or should I say, much better stories than what is told in the movie. Now, forgetting about the movie, we delve right into the book. What is it about? It is basically about the zombie apocalypse that has happened and hit the earth. However, it's dealing with it from the aftermath of it all. From after the war against the zombies has been won, humanity is reclaiming the earth, and everything is more or less on the up and up. But all the stories you'll find in this are from during the war. And each one is usually, I believe, told by a completely different person. They're all interviewed by the same man who has compiled all these stories over the years and has finally gotten to written it, which is all explained in the introduction. You'll see it's written kind of like a transcript of interviews, which is basically what it is. Interviews of varying people from varying lands, varying cultures. Some of it has to do with the United States. A lot of it has to do with globally. Now, the really interesting thing that I found in this book is that the way Max Brooks has it all written down, it's not just about fighting zombies and killing zombies. And the zombies in this book aren't like any fast moving zombies. No, they're slow moving. They're the traditional Romero George A. Romero zombies from his flicks, such as Night of the Living Dead, I believe Dawn of the Dead, the one where they're trapped in a mall. I know they did a remake of it, um, but the original Dawn of the Dead movie by George A. Romero, that is the movie that I watched when I was very, very young on Christmas Eve, which is why zombies come to mind every time this time of year comes around. But so you get these slow moving zombies. You get zombies, people that have been bitten by zombies, and it takes them a long time, slow burners they call them, to become zombies themselves. And this is why the infection spread over the course of a certain period of time, before anybody was really aware of it. The infection spread to all these other countries, and naturally, as zombies do, over time, they just keep multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. But the way he has it all written down, the way he compiles the story and puts it all together, it's not focusing on the killing of the zombies. It's focusing on how everything breaks down on a global scale, as well as how humanity starts fighting back and coming up with ingenious ways of stopping these zombies and combating them and getting around them. It deals with the political, the economic ramifications, the cultural ramifications of something like this happening. That is where the most of the focus tends to lie, on both the individual and the societal conflicts. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh, you know what word it is. Yes, the societal effects, the how society is affected by all of this. And it's really interesting and amazing how he's put it all together, because it all literally makes sense. It's a logical progression of events if this were to happen. I've never read anything else by Max Brooks, but I will be changing that in the future. This is one of the best books to read of his to get into things. What can I say about it? Beyond that, beyond go read it now. Go, go, go. I could say other things, and I probably will. There is sections on all the various countries in the Middle East. There's a couple of people with Japan, that was really interesting. I'm kind of a fan of Japanese culture, so getting to read about that was really interesting. The Russians, the Britons, just some seriously dark storytelling going on in these books, because you're dealing with a zombie apocalypse, full-on zombie apocalypse going, and all these people that are surviving, they don't know how they're going to do it. They have no clue. They think the world is literally at an end. It is Judgment Day. The religious ramifications also come into play in this book. Now, it can be a little disjointed if you're not used to reading this type of thing, where it's not all simple, fluid storytelling that goes on normally. It jumps around in the timeline. Usually a steady progression of that, because it starts back at the beginning of the war and progresses through the zombie war in fits and starts as it jumps ahead. And jumps not only ahead in time, but in place as well. So what else is there to say about zombies? About this book, An Oral History of the Zombie War? There isn't anything else to say beyond read it. But, because I always do, I will leave you with just the introduction. Only a couple of pages. This is in the actual words of the quote unquote author of the book, which is the reporter, the man who went around and interviewed everyone else who is put down in this book. Ostensibly, the reporter is supposed to be an author insertion character based off of the author himself, Max Brooks, I believe, which is also kind of interesting. So, I will leave you with the introduction to World War Z and oral history of the zombie war. It goes by many names: the Crisis, the Dark Years, the Walking Plague, as well as newer and more hip titles such as World War Z or Z War 1. I personally dislike this last moniker as it implies an inevitable Z War 2. For me, it will always be the Zombie War. And while many protest the scientific accuracy of the word zombie, they will be hard pressed to discover a more globally accepted term for the creatures that almost caused our extinction. Zombie remains a devastating word, unrivaled in its power to conjure up so many memories or emotions, and it is these memories and emotions that are the subject of this book. This record of the greatest conflict in human history owes its genesis to a much smaller, much more personal conflict between me and the chairperson of the United Nations Post-War Commission report. My initial work for the Commission could be described as nothing short of a labor of love. My travel stipend, my security access, my battery of translators, both human and electronic, as well as my small but nearly priceless voice-activated transcription PAL, the greatest gift the world's slowest typist could ask for. All spoke to the respect and value my work was afforded on this project. So, needless to say, it came as a shock when I found almost half of that work deleted from the report's final edition. It was all too intimate, the chairperson said during one of our many animated discussions. Too many opinions, too many feelings. That's not what this report is about. We need clear facts and figures, unclouded by the human factor. Of course, she was right. The official report was a collection of cold, hard data, an objective after-action report that would allow future generations to study the events of that apocalyptic decade without being influenced by the human factor. But isn't the human factor what connects us so deeply to our past? Will future generations care as much for chronologies and casualty statistics as they would for the personal accounts of individuals not so different from themselves? By excluding the human factor, aren't we risking the kind of personal detachment from a history that may, heaven forbid, lead us one day to repeat it? And in the end, isn't the human factor the only true difference between us and the enemy we now refer to as the living dead? I presented this argument, perhaps less professionally than was appropriate, to my boss, who, after my final exclamation of, "We can't let these stories die," responded immediately with, "Then don't. Write a book. You've still got all your notes, and the legal freedom to use them. Who's stopping you from keeping these stories alive in the pages of your own, expletive deleted, book?" Some critics will no doubt take issue with the concept of a personal history book so soon after the end of worldwide hostilities. After all, it has only been 12 years since VA Day was declared in the continental United States, and barely a decade since the last major world power celebrated its deliverance on Victory in China Day. Given that most people consider VC Day to be the official end, then how can we have a real perspective when, in the words of a UN colleague, we've been at peace about as long as we were at war? This is a valid argument, and one that begs a response. In the case of this generation, those who have fought and suffered to win us this decade of peace, time is as much an enemy as it is an ally. Yes, the coming years will provide hindsight, adding greater wisdom to the memories seen through the light of a matured post-war world, but many of those memories may no longer exist, trapped in bodies and spirits too damaged or infirm to see the fruits of their victory harvested. It is no great secret that global life expectancy is a mere shadow of its former pre-war figure. Malnutrition, pollution, the rise of previously eradicated ailments, even in the United States with its resurgent economy and universal health care, are the present reality. There simply are not enough resources to care for all the physical and psychological casualties. It is because of this enemy, the enemy of time, that I have forsaken the luxury of hindsight and published these survivors' accounts. Perhaps decades from now, someone will take up the task of recording the recollections of the much older, much wiser survivors. Perhaps I might even be one of them. Although this is primarily a book of memories, it includes many of the details, technological, social, economic, and so on, found in the original Commission report, as they are related to the stories of those voices featured in these pages. This is their book, not mine, and I have tried to maintain as invisible a presence as possible. Those questions included in the text are only there to illustrate those that might have been posed by readers. I have attempted to reserve judgment or commentary of any kind, and if there is a human factor that should be removed, let it be my own. And then it gets into all the good stuff, all the meatiness. So yes, World War Z and all history of the zombie war. That is what you should be reading this week, or any week in the future. Like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Feel free to. I don't mind. Pass it along. Share it. And until next time, remember, you should be reading.